Hey folks, so it's been a while and we are done with all of our content from the text. And so now we're moving on to our speeches, which is pretty exciting. But I did want to kind of go over some things that are important for your informative speech. So one of the most important aspects of an informative speech is the introduction. Now, the introduction is really important because it is what can make or break your speech, and it's really what I look for as far as in your informative speech. Like, that's a really big part of what I'm looking to see if you learned and execute all of those things that are in the introduction. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each part of the introduction. That's the attention getter, the reason to listen, the credibility statement, the thesis statement, and the preview of main points. So the first part is the attention getter. And so it is pretty self-explanatory. It is the part of the speech where you're getting the audience's attention. And if you're in a digital medium like YouTube, one of the big attention getters isn't something that you say at the beginning of your speech, but it's the aesthetic that your speech has, the title that you give it, the thumbnail that you pick. That is what's going to get the audience's attention. And so when you're doing a speech for a digital format like that, you don't have to try so hard. I'm sorry, you do have to try a little bit more in that, in addition to your regular attention getter. So the attention getter should be something that just that captures the audience's attention. It can be a story, it can be a joke, it can be a greeting, it can be a startling statistic or fact, something like that. You want to be clever with how you use your attention getters. Some attention getters that aren't really helpful are things like defining commonly known terms. Like, this would be a bad attention getter would be, Webster's dictionary defines happiness as blah, 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 blah. And then you don't develop that argument later. So unhelpful attention getters, it should relate to your topic. And you should deliver it in a way that gets the audience's attention. Okay, so the second part of the introduction is going to be your reason to listen. Now, the reason to listen is one of the most important parts of your introduction because it is, in fact, the place where you sell the speech to your audience. Now, when you're talking to adult populations, they're really not going to listen unless they need to. So the reason to listen is where you tell them why they should listen. And you should be solving a problem for them. You should be helping them with something. You should be explaining to them how this is relevant to them. And so focusing on this part is really important for your first speech. And it should be something that you do in all speeches that you do in the future, is really selling your speech within the first minute of it. So the third part is the credibility statement. Now, this is where you state, so if the reason to listen is why they should listen to the speech, the credibility statement is why they should listen to you. So what background knowledge do you have on this? What experience do you have? What credentials do you have that make you a credible speaker on this? And so this is what our text calls developing your ethos. So why are you the credible person for them to listen to? The next part of this introduction is the thesis statement. And the thesis statement should be one statement, one sentence. It should be short and concise, and you just say the point of your speech. What is the point that you're trying to make? What are you going to talk about? So it's really stating your stance, and then in the rest of the speech you will unpack whatever that is. And then the final part of the introduction is your blueprint of main points, or your preview of main points. And so you just tell the audience what are your main points real briefly. That way they know how to follow along in your speech and what they can expect from it. It's a really helpful learning tool, especially for informative speeches. I know sometimes students are like, well, I don't want to give my speech away in the introduction. Don't give it away. Just tell us briefly what you're going to talk about. When you think about teaching for informing people, you want them to remember. So the more that you can build in redundancy, the better. All right, folks, so we talked about what important aspects of the introduction that you want to focus on for your informative speech. We talked about the attention getter, the reason to listen, the credibility statement, the thesis statement, and the preview of main points. So I hope this is helpful for you guys as you're moving on to creating your informative speech. If you guys have any questions this week, let me know, and I will be at your service. Enjoy your day.